It's time. It's time. I'm here to get canceled by the Hoyo shows. Here, we are going to be watching a video from Mistah Feet, who makes genuinely very, very fun, compelling, and interesting Genshin Impact content that I love. I'm actually surprised I'm not subscribed. And they're making a video saying a rant about Genshin. And so I watched like the intro, and then I saw like little timestamps on it. I said, okay, this is something I want to discuss. I'm actually going to make a video myself on what I think should change going into Natlin, and then the realistic changes I think they're going to happen. But by the way, sidebar, repping my homie BL Plays his merch. This is actually fire. Go on, check it out. It's in the description. Then yeah, so this is Go to the Sauce. Absolutely beautiful sweater. So this is 39 minutes long. I'm going to play this at 1.2 speed. 1.5 speed, and then after that, we're going to go from there. But I mean, it says there's the intro, endgame content, Resin, world bosses, resources, story quest, skip cutscene button, Archon Quest, quality of life, events, nothing to do, skins, weapon, character banner. Like, there's everything here. There is everything here. So let's go. Let's get right into it.
Hey
let's
everyone,
see.
this video is going to be very different from every
I'm
other
gonna
video
make
I've
it
made
a bit
on my channel.
louder.
This isn't going to be some highly edited commentary video about some dumb challenge I did for the game. This is going to be a video from Chris, not Mistah Feet, a Genshin player who's been playing since like July 2022, I think, who is AR
Ambermane? Oh my god.
60 and just has a lot of stuff they want to say about the game. I'm not quitting because
Yo, what is this Kaching Souls mod? What do I got to get up on to get this though? Sidebar, like, oh my god,
believe it or not, I still have fun doing the challenges and making those videos. For
This
you
looks
guys. It's actually
fire.
an account that I've been losing interest in. Aside from some passive-aggressive
Makes
remarks
sense.
that are made in some of my videos, I don't
sense.
usually give my general thoughts on the game. My videos are centered around the challenges and the stories of those runs rather than my
Was
thoughts
it
on the
Sekiro?
game. So I just kind of wanted to express my opinions about the game and my concerns. And
Yup.
even though this video says rant in the title, I'm not going to be yelling my lungs out and calling the game bad. I really just want to say what's on my mind. If it's not
I appreciate, I have a feeling going into this is going to be very constructive criticism as opposed to just complaining to complain. And I think, I mean, realistically, Hoyoverse, the Genshin devs don't listen to anything regardless. It's just, it is what it is. They really don't listen unless you're the CN community threatening to sue because you nerf a lot. But I do appreciate the fact that this is coming from someone who mains Genshin, does crazy content on Genshin that's actually very entertaining, puts in a lot of effort, and I'm excited. I'm excited to hear, because when I say what I don't like, I get yelled at, right? And it's like, what? You're a Woodwing Wave show? It's like, Woodwing Wave just came out like 3 months ago. Like, what was I playing before this? I was playing Genshin Impact. So I'm excited.
not
I'm
obvious,
excited.
I love the
Let's
game,
see.
and I just want to voice my concerns. And this video is also being done live. I don't really have a script for it, but I do have some
Yeah.
notes to help me guide through this.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what order I'm going to talk about this in, but I'll edit it in post. So if you want to see like timestamps for a certain thought on X, Y, and Z, they will be in the description. And a couple of things before I start this, I just want to say that I want this video to be a discussion. I know that like I'm going to forget about some topics that you guys are probably interested in, but I'm also curious about what you guys think about the game. Like, do you think it's just like in the best position it's ever been in, or do
All
you
right,
also-
let's get to this stuff. Okay.
the first things I'm going to talk about are the common complaints like no in-game content and increased resin. For me, I kind of accepted that we wouldn't be getting any in-game content at all a long time ago. Like,
Actually, historically, they've increased the resin twice. Because at the beginning of the game, it was only 120 resin, then they increased it to 160, and now it is 200 resin. So therefore, Widowing Waves is bad, dead game, and Genshin Impact, Hoyoverse listens. Yeah, 200 resin is so ass, brother. This is not good.
I'm talking my
This
first
is not
3 to 4
good.
months of playing the game. We have the Abyss, but honestly, I hate the Abyss. It's just not fun. I don't have any problems 36 starring the Abyss, but I feel bored because I'm basically just hitting a training dummy with a million HP that will
Yeah.
occasionally fight back. It's not fun. It's boring, especially when
The boss design in Genshin Impact, I think, is generally one of the worst boss designs for almost 95% of the bosses in the game. It's either they run away from you and they don't want you to get hit, they go underground, so still technically run away, or they just fly away. Or they stand there and they're invulnerable for X amount of time. You do damage, they're damage gated by either some sort of elemental reaction, or you have to do some other weird mechanic for them to... It's not a mechanic, you just got to kill something, and it's like... There's no interesting boss designs in the game. Like, obviously, I come from playing, like, Destiny 2, right? I'm not expecting Destiny 2 mechanics, even those are, like, super surface level. Or, like, I'm not even expecting, like, WoW mechanics, right? But just give me something of a little bit of substance. Give me something where it's not just the wee nut running around over and over again, you know what I mean? Like, I would take anything that is somewhat decent. and it's not just going on the ground. So yes, it's horrible.
They add enemies like Magu Kinki and the Serpent enemies who either have invincibility frames at the start or
Literally,
they just don't fight you. It seems like the difficulty of Abyss is either having an enemy with too much HP, making the enemy avoid fighting you, or just freezing you so you can't play the game. But even though I personally don't enjoy it, I recognize that there are people that do see the Abyss as a test for their account, and they like making optimal teams and stuff like that to help clear it. And there are some things that I do like about the Abyss. I know there's controversy surrounding one floor of the Abyss right now with having to protect the pillars against the large amount of slimes, but me personally, I didn't find it to be too bad, and I actually kind of enjoyed it because at times it did feel like there's a little bit of a challenge trying to defend it. I just wish they did more with the mode of Abyss as a whole. And I know that
Monolith is annoying. I think Monolith is artificial difficulty, but I also understand why people enjoy it. If you have Kaza on one side, you're pretty much okay. Everything else is just easy. It's very rare. I don't know. Like, I saw Pokey the other day. Pokey's account's new, and he was getting his ass beat, and dude got 1 star on the Monolith. So I get it. I understand it. But that's not the challenge I'm looking for. But I mean, like, also, like, if they were to introduce different little mini objectives into the Abyss as well to make it a bit more fun, I think that's great. I mean, I've done legitimately probably over 400 Abyss runs since January. I've done 3 72-hour streams of just straight up Abyss, 100-hour stream of just straight up Abyss, and account recovers on Genshin Impact all the time. TTVE_then. All right, I'll do a few as well. But I definitely think the actual Abyss itself is not a bad concept, and it is just severely lacking in any type of creativity. It's consistently boiled down to it's either it's an HP check or it's a CC check / elemental check. Or what they'll do is they'll make chamber 1, side 1, CC check, and then chamber 2 and 3, side 1, DPS checks. And then they make chamber 2, side 1, DPS check, side 2, side 3, CC checks. And so then you kind of have to like swap and back and forth thinking if you don't have Venti, you don't have Kaza, and sometimes Venti doesn't even carry half of them. You have to swap back and forth a little bit, which is not a big deal in the world, but there's no originality. I feel like all of their creative juices have just gone. I would love to see an Arlecchino in there. I'd love to see Phase 2 Arlecchino. Widowing Waves did it with Scar Phase 2. I'd like to see anything of substance in there. So, Scaramouche, give me something, but whatever.
This game isn't very difficult because it's not really designed to be. The main thing I want from the game is that if they're not going to make the enemies more interesting, make our gameplay more interesting. I would love to see another mode like Abyss, but it has roguelike features from elements in that one event, and I think like 2.2, the domain one. You could add a co-op Abyss, and a change for the main Abyss I would like to see is honestly add more interesting buffs. Genshin just has increased elemental mastery, increased energy recharge. There's interesting ones like getting a damage buff after sprinting for a while, which actually requires you to think some if you want to manage it properly. Look at Wuwa and HSR. Wuwa gave characters another
no one uses that, but I can confidently say nobody uses that buff. That buff is whack. That buff is absolutely horrendous, and nobody uses it. It is very, very bad. It's useless and it's stupid. When you get that card, I'd normally just pick something completely different because it's dumb. It's just dumb. It is a stupid card, and I don't know. I just don't understand them. They dropped Imaginarium Theater. I'm sorry, I'm checking something on my phone. They dropped Imaginarium Theater, and that was supposed to be roguelike, and those cards are absolutely horrendous. I've completed 1 million Imaginary Theatrums without using any of the boons and using underleveled characters. 70 characters, little to no artifacts, just beat the game. It's not... It's like they have the idea, and the idea is kind of cool, and then they just completely drop the ball with it, and it's like... There's no creativity. It's not like Widowing Waves. Well, it's not like Widowing Waves Simulated Universe either, but it's not like Honky Starbucks, Widowing Waves... Oh my god, Simulated Universe either. I'm thinking of Widowing Waves. I'm a Kuro show. I'm sorry. I'm Widowing Waves show. I apologize. They lack creativity. I don't understand. I genuinely don't get how that team, or they can create Star Rail or ZZZ, and then Genshin Impact exists. I don't understand it. So it's pretty bad. They've created this game mode. It just doesn't mean anything. The cards are ass. They're absolutely horrendous.
Passive in the roguelike event. I don't know if it's still there because I haven't played in a while. And HSR just has a large variety of buffs to choose from that benefit different classes. Could we not have something similar to that, to buffs that increase the effectiveness of like an element or a weapon or like character abilities? And I mean more than just the ley lines, like a buff that you can choose to add to your team and make it so that like, I don't know, like if you have a shield on your team, damage just gets reflected back at enemies, and the effect can stack more with more shields you have. You can do like fun team comps with like Zhongli, Diona, other shielders I can't think of off the top of my head, like a 4-shield team comp. That could work. Just cool, interesting stuff like that, and then for the players who don't want to do that and actually test their account, then you can add a 4th card that tells the game, hey, I don't want any buffs. That way they can do it normally. Or hell, if you're not going to update the Abyss, then just make a separate permanent roguelike mode. You already had the formula down, just put it out again. There's so much potential with in-game content that you could literally make a mode where players choose enemies, bosses, their levels, and their placement, and people can just make the in-game content for you. Just give them the tools. People can literally make their own Abyss and just like make a code and send it out to other people to try it. You could just make this a side event, then review the feedback, and then just don't make it permanent and lock it away with all the other fun events you do. We did get new permanent.
Bro, do it and let it there be no primo rewards, if anything. I don't care. I don't care. Even if there's no rewards, I feel like it's just something. It's just challenging, and it's just fun for the endgame players. I do think there should be some sort of rewards. I think that's a very, very solid idea. I think it's a very solid idea, but they'll probably never do it. But like giving people the tools, like a Roblox or like a Minecraft or Fortnite, Unreal Engine, say, here's what you could do. Here's with a map. Place your enemies. You can put in placements. You can put in like whatever you want. Again, make every level 120, like enemies, whatever the case may be. You can make, literally, you can make your own Spiral Abyss. 3 levels, right, of a floor 13, and do that. And I would sit there and probably play that all day. And even if I get no rewards out of it, I get 0 primo gems. There should be rewards. But I also understand that, like, well, if you complete 100 creator maps, like, you know, of course, like, you know, how many primos you get. I think there should be like a standard, maybe 60 primo gems. You do 3 maps. Each map is 60 primo gems. It doesn't matter what 3 you do, you just do it. Easy fucking primos. Then people can't complain that it's not rewards. It's not a lot, but it's still something. Or give 200 like I do with the Abyss. But they absolutely should be doing that. And at that point, their argument, and it's still lazy on their part, but it's like their argument is, well, we gave you the tools. You make your own endgame now. Now we're done. We've given you everything. I still think it's silly, especially because I'm sure that's how they would probably respond to that. But it's very simple. It's very, very simple. I can't see them. They've done it with the teapot.
Theater, and I think it's fine. Is it everything I've ever wanted it to be? No, I don't find it to be that fun. But I'm not.
It's a bad game mode. It's a bad game mode.
I'm going to complain about new permanent content because that's what I want to see more of. I would rather it be here than it not be here. The only thing that worries me about the mode is that it requires so much investment in your characters, which could be demotivating to some, especially if you don't have many high-rank friends who could give you characters, or if you really wanted to play as your favorite characters, well, you can't. Have fun with Toma. Additionally, they added the little extra missions you can do to unlock trails for some characters, which it's nothing big, it's harmless, but I'm glad it's something different for the game. It's just something.
That game mode is absolutely horrendous. The boons don't matter. The fact that it's only for 30 days, and then after that, if you finally level up, if you level up all your characters, and let's say you only have 3 days left to complete the content, you're screwed if you can't do it. And then now you have to look what the next reset is, and be like, oh fuck, now all my resin and all my resources went to waste, and now my characters, I have to upgrade another 5 or 7 or 8 characters to complete the Imaginarium Theater. It is genuinely a waste. It's pretty bad. There is potential, but they have capitalized on it in the worst way possible.
We
honestly.
got 200 resin with 4.7, I believe, which was exciting to a lot of people since this is something that we've been asking for a long time. But when it happened, I just kind of felt like whatever. This change didn't seem like it happened because they finally listened to us, but rather because of what was released. If I'm just being honest, seriously, why would they give us 200 resin when HSR and ZZZ both have 240 resin and 6-minute recharge rates compared to our 8? And plus, they just released a mode that encourages you to build a lot of characters. So wouldn't it make sense to increase the resin system and recharge rates so we have an easier time to build those characters? And on the topic of resin, this may be
it also would help if they had a resin bank, so that way when I don't log in for like a year, I could have my max resin bank. I just don't understand why that's not a thing either.
A hot take, but I think we should just remove condensed resin or change how it works. Like, seriously, why can't we just make the domains have a 40 cost with the condensed rates and turn the condensed resin system into a proper overcapping resin system? It's kind of like that now, but again, let's compare to games like Star Rail, where it overcaps to 2400, while we only get a max of 5 condensed resin, which translates to another 200 resin. I'm not saying we need 2400 like Star Rail does, but I think we could all agree having more than just another spare 200 resin would be nice to have. And plus, there's the crystal.
This is no shot to this, homie. We need 2400. There's no reason. Literally, the fact that the talents are locked per days, and so it's like, okay, well, I don't want to waste my resin today, and not use it because I have to fight something Wednesday, and today is Monday or Tuesday. I'm gonna go use it on something else, and now I have to remember to log in at the same exact time to have enough resin to go back into that talent domain. First of all, talent is a completely separate problem, but there should 1,000 be 2,400%. So that way, if you don't log in, you forget to log in, you're like, you know what, I'm going to log in Sunday, and I have maybe like 600 resin sitting on my bank. Okay, I cannot use that 600 resin sitting in my bank from the day that I didn't log in because I couldn't use the talent on Wednesday and just bang it out in one day. It's so silly. It is so silly, and people don't. I really think the argument of, well, if they give too many rewards, people are going to stop playing, is so stupid. It is so dumb. They don't incentivize their players to play the game right now. If you're giving more rewards and you're giving more ways to spend your resin and freedom to build your characters, collectionists are going to be like, I need to now build every single character. A lot of people, including myself, bro, I don't play on my account anymore. I don't play. I have people who go on my account and they do my resin, and that's it. I just got Yalan. Someone else is building my Yalan for me. I don't feel the need to log in and sit there and find the magic conch from for her ascension, and then have to fight her talents 2 or 3 days out of the week. It's so silly. It is so dumb. And the fact that I only have 200 resin and it's nearly impossible to get fragile resin unless you buy the battle pass, it's dumb. It's just so stupid, and it stagnates your progress. Now, obviously, it's a gacha game, so they can't give you everything. It has to be a give and pull, but there's been no give. There's been no give. Giving an extra 40 resin is not giving. I want to make this very clear. You're not being what's the word? Grateful. For what? That's one extra thing. That's one extra run. That's one run after 4 years. What? It's so silly. It's so silly.
Flies, which
it's so
this
silly.
might be a nitpick. Is it really necessary to have to collect these crystal flies, teleport to a city, go to a crafting table, get
I agree.
condensed resin, then teleport to a domain, and then spin the
Dumb.
resin? Or better yet, we can use the crystal fly generator, wait a whole week, and
Yep.
now we have enough crystal flies to last 3 days.
Yep.
Changing this would also be helpful in those scenarios where you
what
might
would
have
be
logged
best?
into the game, immediately did your condensed resin, then later realized, oh, I need 40 resin to do this one boss, and now I can't do it unless I use fragile resin because I wasted all my normal ones on condensed. And since we're still on the topic of resin, I think we should just remove daily materials. It's just frustrating and it feels dated. Just have the option to where we can choose one of the three materials for whenever we do the domain. Why should I have to wait on Tuesday, Fridays, and Sundays to collect balls from the Trial Grounds of Thunder? Why can I only collect this one?
Bro, I want my balls and I want them now. I want them now. It's the dumbest system ever. It's so stupid. There's no defending it. There's no
One
defending
book
it.
that I need on Monday, Thursday, and
horrendous.
Sunday. It just feels like such an artificial way to stretch playing time. But if I
Yup.
end up coming back onto a special day
Yup.
and I just spur of the moment think, oh, I need to use resin on a world boss or a weekly boss for the level up materials because there's so many materials you need to get to level up characters that I forget, oh, it's Friday, I should have went to go collect some balls, and now I have to wait for Sunday to do it.
It's
then.
your fault
Why
you
should
didn't
the
collect the
punishment for
balls.
such a simple mistake range from using
Your
fragile
fault.
resin to waiting literal days? This just seems like a feature that started in older gacha games, but I would like to think that the genre has moved past that, and I would like to think that Hoyoverse also thinks that because HSR and ZZT don't have materials locked behind specific days. The local resources system isn't resin related, but I'll also just talk about it now because it takes like 3 days for the materials to reset. I don't really have a problem with that since you are exploring and it doesn't cost any resin, so you can do it at your own pace. But I would at least like there to be a dedicated store in each nation that sells all of their materials with a shop that resets every week. I know that there's
That'd be cool. Or I wouldn't even be against like if you had to pay X amount of resin to reset your world and you could only do it a few times a week. I think that'd be maybe a little bit overpowered, but I also wouldn't be too against that because it really does take forever to reset your flowers. Like in order for you to level up a character to the max level, you have to go into other people's worlds. There's no way you can sit there as if a new Natlan character drops tomorrow and Natlan came out tomorrow, you cannot get them to 90 in just your world. You have to go around to other places and steal flowers to get it leveled up. And it's annoying. It's annoying. I think you should at least have, like they said, that store with maybe a monthly reset. Even if it's only 15 or 20 flowers and they're like how Whittling Waves has. Let there be a reset. Let there be something where it says you can buy this region's flowers one time, 15 every month. It just makes life easier. It's little quality of lives that they genuinely neglect, and I don't know. I mean, they print so much money. I get why they neglect it. It's like there's no reason for them to change anything when they make an ungodly amount of money. You know what I'm saying? I mean, this Emily banner is probably going to flop because Emily's whack, but Natlan's just going to make up for it. Although I'm really not excited for Natlan, but that's a different topic. Yeah, I just don't understand that. I don't get it.
some places like this, such as that one girl in Mondstadt who sells like wolf hooks, those like Barbara mushrooms,
She's
and
the plug. She's
Noel
the
berries.
plug.
And I think there's a guy who sells like the Kale and Wanderer mushrooms every 3 days. But there are materials that just aren't sold by any vendors, and we have to collect 168 of these things to max out a character. I think each nation should have a dedicated and properly labeled store that sells every local specialty in a quantity of like 10 to 15 each week. I'm okay with having the vendors available in the open world, in that they basically do what I'm asking, because you could get 10 Valberries in a week from the Flower Girl. I just believe that having a store that has all of the nation's local specialties would be a nice quality of life change to have, in addition to a variety of vendors spread out in the world that sell some resources instead of another.
Yes. World bosses.
World bosses, alright, the materials just sometimes don't make any sense. Sethos is a character that comes from the Sumerian desert. Okay, I get that. Why is his boss a creature from Leeway that doesn't even drop electro crystals? The only reason I see them doing this is because it's a recent boss, but this reason becomes more obsolete as more patches come along. It just completely dates the situation. There's literally an electro flower in Sumeru he could use. Let's look at Shinha.
Okay, this I don't think is a problem. I don't think this matters. I think this is a little silly. I think this is a big nitpick. I mean, I'll let them cook, but as of right now, I don't care. I don't care about this. I think
and
it's
her
silly.
boss, a character that was raised in Leeway her whole life, and her boss is now at the very end of Onkonomiya, an area that is locked behind the Inazuma Archon Quest, which is locked behind AR-30. Additionally, another problem I have with the bosses is that since the game is getting bigger and more characters are being added, it is becoming harder for people who are new to the game to enjoy new characters because of their materials. It's like getting a toy, but you're being told you have to wait until Christmas to use it, but it's July. Imagine if someone who...
So the easy solution to that is the same thing they did with the world bosses, where there can be a handbook and you can go to a boss without having to do the story, or go to the region to do the story. Excuse me, to get, like, you don't have to go to the region. You can just pick it from that handbook and then it's okay. And I think that I understand that criticism, because it's definitely annoying for newer players, and I'm not a newer player, right? I don't have that experience. But, like, obviously, if someone starts the game and they roll, like, let's say the Natlan Archon, like, well, wait a second, now I have 80 hours of the game to play. That, I believe, is a problem. I believe that is a problem, and they need to address that. And, again, very simple fix. Same thing you do with the Adventure Handbook with the weekly bosses, do it with the world bosses. But the location of, like, well, why Sethos is here, but they're in Leeway, that's silly. That doesn't matter. Like, little things like that don't matter, especially if actually it's probably a positive thing, because when you look at Sethos, right, and if his character is in Leeway is easily accessible at the beginning of the game, right? So as opposed to going through Sumeru and the 50 hours of dialogue of Nihida and the Akasha or whatever the hell it's called. So I get the second part of the point. The first part is, it's not that it's not valid, because it is still annoying. Well, I personally don't think it's annoying, but I could see why someone thinks it's annoying. But I do think it's a little silly. It's like, like who cares about that? Resin, things like that. No endgame. That I agree with. Power creep, I agree. But yeah.
Just started the game, did a 10-full on character banner or standard banner, and they got a Farzan.
This is
they
a problem.
Get her to level 40 top.
It's a problem.
After that, assuming they are still in Mondstadt or hell, even Leeway, you would have to go from here to here, all in the dark, just because you wanted to level up a character. And then we have Fontaine. Fontaine is much more accessible than Sumeru or Inazuma because they actually give you a teleport. However, they do a job of telling the players that. Here, I'll show you the screen in which you unlock the teleport for Fontaine. Tell me if you noticed it. All right, if you did, that's the first test. Now tell me where's the teleport that's been unlocked. Trick question, you can't. If a new player wanted to see that they could go to Fontaine, they would have to know to look at this black blob, notice nothing is there, but then zoom in, and there is the teleport waypoint. What were they thinking? If nothing is there, why would someone think to zoom in? There is no way for a new player to know this without looking it up. Genuinely no way. Just have a pop-up after the Archon Quest notification. It's that easy.
That's bad. That is horrendous. What frame did I just click on?
I appreciate the
Ka-ching, please stop it. Calm it down. That's bad. That's bad. That's not a good. There's no information. That's just bad. There's no defending that. That's just bad,
games
for sure.
to make the bosses respawn every 10 seconds. I really do. But I think they need to add a teleport change also, or at least give the players a temporary one. Just have the option to teleport to the boss, or even allow players to gain more resources in the trial run. And you can do that by making them do additional challenges, like making them trigger the elemental reaction X amount of times, or doing something in a certain time limit. Just something. And speaking of resources...
Well, I think that's really complicated. I think you literally just make an adventure handbook with all the bosses and say, here's the teleport. You can only do it solo, and that is it. There's no co-op allowed. And eventually, if when it gets to that point, you have to complete the story and actually unlock them in the real game in order for you to get that. So I don't think that fix that just feels like is a little long, a little weird. Just do the adventure handbook thing. It's easy. It's easy. Resources. Whack.
For a newer player, resources are a complete nightmare. If you were starting from the beginning, you can pretty much only pick 2 characters out of your team to level up consistently between the ascension ranks. And the fact that normal enemies at lower world levels don't even drop material sometimes is just ridiculous to me. Oh, and going back into boss resources, the fact that I am AR 60 and can still get 2 drops from a boss, which also is something that a level 1 player can do, is literally insane. How is this even possible?
Yeah, it's worse than Widowing Waves. It's 100% worse than Widowing Waves. Widowing Waves is the issue that I just dropped a video on. Go check that out. But this is pretty bad. This is there's no excusing this. This is just horrendous.
I should be getting 3 minimum. There is never a chance
3 to
I should
4.
be getting 2 at AR60. There is literally no progression. What? They finally started adding more content towards the end game, but the early game experience and quality of life are so far behind in changes that newer players or players that are starting to feel tired after like AR40 will probably never experience this stuff because they would just want to drop the game.
I was never going to mention that the graphic research do not feel as rewarding as it should be, considering that you have to wait days in order to get materials, and condensed resin would take about 4 or 5. Blue or green materials guaranteed around 20 a day. Use 5 condensed. We need 60 blue books, 30 purple books, which aren't guaranteed from drops, events. Yeah, that makes sense. That all makes sense. Story quest. Okay. I have a big problem with the way they tell story in Genshin Impact, and obviously, like people who enjoy the lore and whatnot, I love that for you, and I think that's amazing. But I feel like it's so silly that I have to figure out the lore by going to a random shop in the place to buy a book, right? I have to buy a book, I have to read it, or whatever. And the story, Fontaine was the first one that really felt different out of all of them. And I just think that, and I really feel like it's probably the same thing with Nalin, unfortunately. It's going to be happy-go-lucky. It's going to be nothing. Nothing is at stake for the first 2 chapters. The 3rd chapter is going to be bad. The 4th one gets a little bit spicy. And then the 5th chapter is when things get very spicy, and then nothing happens, and it's a happy ending. And I think the storytelling is so play-by-play and just kind of whack, where it's like, I'm really not excited. I'm really not excited at all. I'm not going to lie. So I think the story quest, I don't know if they're talking about the main Archon Quest here. I don't know. They just says story quest. Oh, they go into Archon Quest after. Yeah, I guess. Oh, they're probably talking about the character story quest. Okay, let's do that.
On in Genshin, the story quests were short, concise, and usually focused on the titular character. But after, I'd say, the second Shogun quest, the story quest writers at Hoyoverse decided to just have a competition in the lunchroom to decide who can make the biggest piece of dog shit in the game. And by the way, I heard the person who wrote Nilu's quest won that one. They have started to pick up, however. I will give them that. I enjoyed Nouvelette's, parts of Farina, parts of Risley. Shunyun was good, and Arlecchino's was also pretty good. For the most part,
Nouvelette's was good. Arlecchino's was good. And Farina was good. Everything else, I don't know. I have no idea. I can't tell you.
I would say that Fontaine has had a redemption arc, but the end of Inazuma and Sumeru was garbage. The downward spiral started with around Yaimiko's, in my opinion, but bad story quests did exist before hers, like Shogun Act 1. But even though that quest sucks, at least we are spending a majority of the time with the Shogun.
Oh yeah,
I would
like
much rather take pictures of her in the city
than
spend 15 minutes talking to an NPC talking about something that 1, will never be mentioned again, and 2, I will never see that person ever again. It also doesn't help that the quests have gotten a lot longer since the beginning of the game. The first 5-star story quest you can do in the game is Cleese. Do you want to know how long it is? It's like 40 minutes if you're watching cutscenes, 20 if you're skipping everything. It is a short and simple story, and you learn everything you need to know about Cleet. Now let's look at Nilu's quest. Nearly an hour and 40 minutes. This is kind of the average length for story quests now, which I would be fine with, but they just focus on random NPCs. We care about the playable characters in the story quest, not NPC, male model B, hair color brown, Inazuma clothes orange. NPCs have their place in the game to help the world feel bigger and more alive, but the story of a character's story quest should be about the titular character. Now, let's compare this quest to an actual important quest like the newest Stainslift quest, Bedtime Story. An hour and 15 to like an hour and 20 minutes. Are you kidding me? Why is the story about Ayato fixing a divorce longer than a quest about us seeing our sibling again? Why is the story about Nilou trying to save her theater?
Well, that in itself is just a problem. The way they tell the narrative between you and the sibling is so stupid. I think if you add it up in total, the amount of time you probably have spoken with your sibling or the actual storytelling of the sibling is probably like maybe 5 to 6 hours in total. And 2 Archon quests equal 5 to 6 hours in just one region, or at least in Fontaine. So it's literally... They do a very bad job of trying to... They miss the point of their own video game. The beginning of Genshin was about finding your twin. And now it's about finding every NPC under the sun and how you can help them and how they can't help you because they don't know anything. And then 2 years later, you see your twin. And then after that, your memory gets erased. Okay, thanks. I appreciate it. I like that quest. I really did like it. I actually cried. I thought it was very cute. But I'm still annoyed. I'm still annoyed by it.
And win a debate longer
annoyed by
than
the
the
lack
game
of
quest that give us
anything,
important
honestly.
lore, have an NPC that
Not gonna lie
actually
to you.
matters to the main story, and gives us a chance to see our sibling, which is the whole point of the story. Why is Nilu's quest longer? She doesn't even win the debate. Anaya has to come in and stop it so it ends. It's just comical at this point. If you're gonna
Yep.
have the NPCs yap for this long, then at least just add a... At first glance, this may seem like the most obvious complaint that I would have for the game, since most of my videos revolve around me having to play through the game and listen to the dialogue all over again. And while yes, this change would help me get challenges done faster by probably 5 hours, that's not my main reason for wanting these. I've played through the game multiple times without one of these, and I will continue to do so, regardless if it's ever there. I want a skip cutscene button, mainly for quality of life in the world quest. I genuinely cannot understand the argument as to why it's not an option, unless there's some sort of physical...
There is no argument. There is no argument. You should be able to skip everything in this game. The only thing you should not be able to skip is the main important cutscenes, like the Sumeru cutscenes, the Fontaine cutscenes, the Archon Quest cutscenes. Those you should not be able to skip. Excuse me, especially if it's your first time. I mean, you can't replay them anyway, so regardless, those you shouldn't be able to skip. Everything else should be skippable. Without a doubt, it is so silly. It is so silly. And the game, I don't know. I feel like sometimes just they take themselves too serious. It's just so dumb. It's absolutely stupid. All these games should have a skip cutscene button.
Limitation. I've seen one comment say that the reason they do this is to maximize time with the characters so you would like them more and want to pull for them. Or that they don't add it because quests would be done so fast and people would complain about filler patches. So let me say this. As for maximizing time with the character, I feel like I know just as much about these characters before I did their quest than I do after doing their quest. If anything, being forced to spend time with a character that you don't like or don't care about only makes the experience even more frustrating. And as for the argument of
Okay, I'll let them
quest being
finish.
done fast and people complaining, let's be real. People are going to complain about everything. That's literally what I'm doing right now. If that patch doesn't end in 0, 1, or 2, there are going to be people calling it a filler patch. I am a firm believer that in any game, cutscenes should be skippable. And one of the biggest complaints about this game is the inhumane amount of yapping these nobodies do. I've had...
Yo, so, okay, first of all, the whole, they want you to spend time with the characters so you can enjoy them. This is what the Archon Quest are for. And I'm going to be honest with you, like, I personally, if it's not a main unit... like a Nuvolette, a Farina, Arlecchino, I'm not doing the story quest. If I haven't met this character in the story, I don't care about them. And I'm not incentivized to, like, for example, Emily. I don't know about Emily. We didn't meet Shiori in the story quest. We didn't meet a lot of these characters in the story quest. I don't care. I'm not doing their story. I'm not doing their story quest. I have no reason to care about them. And for me, if you force me to sit with a character that I don't like and that I don't care about, you're not incentivizing me to spend money. You're incentivizing me to want to turn off the game and go play Elden Ring. You're not incentivizing me to spend money. And I understand people are like, oh my God, that's so cute. And they get these emotional attachments to these characters. And so the great thing about it is the people who like that and want to spend time with the characters and get these emotional attachments, they're not going to use the skip button. They won't. They won't. Like, we could safely assume a large portion, I'm not going to say a large majority, a large portion of the audience is casuals, loves the game for the game, loves the game for the story and whatnot, and so they're probably not going to use the skip button. I will 100% utilize the skip button. A lot of CCs would absolutely utilize the skip button. And that is just such a silly, dumb argument. Do you really think that the sales for Emily would be less if there was a skip button for her story quest? Do you think the sales for Monsieur Neurvalette would be less if there was a skip button in the main story? I don't think so. And I think if you think that, I think you're foolish. I really do. I think that is stupid. Let people skip the story. And then the whole, oh, well, there's nothing to do. There's nothing to do regardless. The moral is, gacha games, there is nothing to do in these games. The point of gacha games is you play one, you play the select few that you like, and you rotate them. And the problem becomes when you start maining them. I've said this in my last video. I've said it in a bunch of videos. I'm going to make another video on it. When you play these games, and these are your main games, there's nothing to do regardless. Unless you are brand new, fresh into Genshin Impact, you have 4 years of things to do. After 3 months, if you're playing the game every day, 3 to 4 months, there's nothing left to do. Maybe some exploration, and that is it. You've done all the story quests. You've probably gotten about 30 to 33 stars in the Abyss, and you got in a lot of characters that you wanted, and so you're just going to farm to try to collect more characters. But realistically, there's nothing to do in the game. They lock your stuff. They lock the talents that you can get. They lock your progression by the resin, obviously, which you know. And what? There's no end game. So what is there to do? You can play TCG. Yeah, I'm going to get right on that. So regardless, there's nothing to do anyway. So people are going to complain anyways. So that is so silly. I hate that argument. I hate that argument so
drop the
much.
game simply because they didn't care for the story, but the game forces them to spend hours doing it, and sometimes without you ever exploring or fighting anything, which is a topic I'll get into a little bit. It is way too frustrating.
My boy downloaded the game, and he loves the combat, and he's a whale. He loves the combat and everything. He's like, bro, the story's atrocious. I don't care. I don't care. Skips everything. He's like, yeah, I spent an hour and 20 minutes just hitting X on my controller or A in Sumeru in that consistent dream that was going on, and I think it was Act 3. It's like, bro, I don't care. I just want to go play the video game. I want to go collect flowers. I want to level up my Nahida. It's silly. It is silly. It is so silly. And you make new players suffer. The game already, new experience, is so amazing, but also so bad at the same time. And making them suffer through this when they don't want to and they don't care and they just kind of want to get in there, it's. I think it's silly, man. I think it's very silly. I think these arguments are very dumb. They're dumb, and again, like they said, anyone's going to complain regardless.
Frustrating of an experience when you just want to do a quick little side quest or start a world quest just to get some primos, and then you have to sit through mindless babbling. Like, come on, man, I just want to get some primos. Do I really have to set aside 90 minutes of my day just to get a third of a wish? All I'm asking for is that you just make it an option. You don't have to make it flash on the screen. Just have a little pause button or an ellipsis button on the top left or right with a drop-down menu that says skip. There are people who enjoy the game's story, yes, but there are also people who enjoy the game for the combat and the exploration.
I refuse to do any of the world quests because of this.
Yes, but they fill it with so much talking that it's easy for people to lose interest and just mash through the dialogue so they can get it over with. I think most people would agree that Sumeru and Fontaine have the best Archon Quest so far from a story perspective. I appreciate the general stories of these nations, but I do have a problem with both of them. That is especially prominent in Fontaine. There needs to—
I think Act 5 Sumeru was peak. I think that's probably the second best or the third best quest. And I think all of Fontaine was good except Act 3. I think Sumeru started off good with Act 1. I think Act 3 was low-key insufferable for me. I understood why people enjoyed it. It wasn't for me, but I think Act 5 genuinely was peak. Like that was great. That was one of the best quests I've ever done in a video game ever. And I think Act 5 and Fontaine Act 4 were top tier. But I'm curious what they don't like about Fontaine, because I actually really liked Fontaine's a lot.
To be more game in these sections. I know that sounds like such a meathead take, but I really do find it to be a problem. Fontaine as a whole is around 6 to 9 hours, and you get to play as your favorite characters 4 times, and 3 of those are in Act 5. Well, I think for now it's like actually 6 combat sections because of the new Dane quest, but the point still stands. Act 3 feels pretty pointless, and all of the secrets are just revealed in the next act, but then they immediately get overshadowed because the main story of Fontaine is actually about to happen. Sumeru's story is when the nations begin to have much longer Archon quests. Sumeru is close to like 8 hours at least, and the nations before that are so much shorter. Inazuma is around 3 to 4 hours if you don't include the Ayaka and Yoimiya story quest, and Liyue and Mondstadt are both around that same time if you don't take into account grinding the adventure rank. I'm okay with you doing longer stories for the Archon quest. I just want there to be less yapping with the NPCs, and I want to feel more involved with the story throughout the entire thing, rather than just being a cameraman. I want there to be—
I don't know if I agree with this truthfully. I think respectfully, I think I disagree in the fact where were those combat sections in Liyue and Mondstadt and Inazuma really mattered other than the ending? You know, I think obviously in Mondstadt you have to have more combat sections because the game is completely brand new, and like you gotta drizzle that in with Air and Liyue, right? Even with Sumeru, I think Sumeru's combat sections were kind of whatever. I think again until Act 5, it was kind of it wasn't like— the combat sections in the story, to me, are actually kind of pointless due to the fact that everything dies in one hit no matter what you do. You can have just a decently built account. No combat section takes more than 3 minutes, unless it's the bosses, the final bosses, or the big bosses in those combat sections. You know what I'm saying? So I don't necessarily agree with this. I think, like, in Fontaine, I think did a great job of just the yapping. Other than Act 3 was atrocious. It was bad. It was so bad that I didn't want to— I actually didn't do Act 4 that same day. I remember I recorded in the morning. I said, yo, I'm going to bed. I'm not doing this right now. I can't be bothered. Act 3 was very bad. Everything else was great. So I don't agree with this because in Fontaine, it wasn't like there was a lot of filler. Other than Act 3, it was very straight to the point, very good stuff, and very different dialogue. And then when you did do the combat sections, they meant something. So to me, I don't agree with this at all. I think that if there's, like, Widowing Waves, for example, right? Act 5 of Widowing Waves, the combat sections and the actual exploration portions of that sections were amazing due to the fact that, I think it was Chapter 5 or Chapter 6, whichever one was the last chapter before the Jui quest. You go into this crazy nether realm and you're fighting alongside an army, and you're doing these crazy transitions, and you're Spider-Man over to like different places. Like, it was insane. Gamers, MTash here, and this changes, and it was wild. It was really, really sick. You don't have that in Genshin. Genshin doesn't have dynamic world changes. They don't have like that Spider-Man effect that you're doing all the time. You're not fighting alongside an army. You're not doing anything to that level of importance or super cool stuff in the story combat. I personally would rather just, instead of you making me fight 5 hilly trails 3 times in 3 different rooms, I'd rather just get on with the story. And also, Fontaine was heavily based in the courts. So unless we're squaring up in the court, you know, I'm about to fight Clarin. I don't know. So I don't necessarily agree with that. Again, all respect to this homie, but I respectfully disagree. I think that it doesn't take away from the immersion. It's like, obviously being a cameraman, I get that perspective, and obviously sometimes the yapping is a lot, but I think they really did a great job keeping it concise and straight to the point in Fontaine. So that's the only region that I could sit down and confidently say, other than Act 3, I will sit down and replay and not skip a thing and just enjoy it for what it was. Really, really love Fontaine. So yeah.
More combat with these quests,
Disagree.
but I don't want them to just slap on.
Now, if you were to say that they should introduce better combat, then I agree with you. They should introduce, like I said, the Wood Wing Wave stuff. I agree. But combat sections they're whack. Like, they're just straight up whack. Genshin Impact has no innovation when it comes to combat. They have no innovation when it comes to combat. They have little to no innovation when it comes to any bosses, unless it's the final bosses or like the Nouvelette boss or like the the Arlecchino boss or like the APEP. So I did mean the Nouvelette boss. There's really no innovation to anything. It's book stuff. It's just straight textbook thing. So yeah.
On a treasure hoarder fight because we haven't had the player do anything in 40 minutes. Make the fights matter to the story. I'm not saying add a Dark Souls boss in between 2 talking points.
No, I
Just
am.
write the fights so that they come more naturally into the story, so that way combat doesn't feel like a distraction, but rather a necessity to the plot as a whole. And you don't have to make us feel involved with just combat. They've made us think in Sumeru, which was a feature. The debate mechanic was more interesting in Fontaine, and I guess in Natlan we're probably gonna do like a spelling bee or whatever. But jokes aside, I would like to feel more involved within these Archon quests, whether it be through meaningful combat or another mechanic that they can make, so we no longer have to go through 20, 40, 50, 60 minutes of nothing but straight talking.
Go talk to people again.
Oh my god, no! 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 I don't want to talk to people again!
But that, I feel like that's a Sumeru problem. I think Sumeru, I'm going to say a massive hot take. I really believe Sumeru was not that great. I really, really don't think it was overall a great region. Again, 1 was cool, 5 was good. I think everything else was pretty mid. I remember I said that and I got roasted in someone's chat. I was like, "Are you crazy? You're on drugs? Like, did you not understand the lore?" No, I understood it. There's too much nonsense going on, and it's like, it did feel like a lot of filler. It felt like there was so much going on and none of it mattered, and that's my problem with these Archon quests. That's why I didn't mind the yapping in Fontaine. Vache. When you do the whole Vache, when you do the Vache quest, bro, I was on my seat. I wanted that man to get clapped. I wanted that man to get clizzily clapped. You know, I wanted that dude to get bodied. They had me invested. Other than that final play, man, this was whack. I think this is a bad example. I think if Pokey, if the biggest Hoyo show in the community, Pokey, if this homie hated Fontaine, I think it's a little bit different. I would be like, okay, like, well, it's a different perspective, but Sumeru was just whack, brother. I'm sorry. It's good. Comparison. I actually think Inazuma is better. Hot take. Anyways, okay. So yeah.
Oh my god.
Yeah.
Those fake ads really drive.
Whoa. Drop a nail on me, mommy. Sorry. Quality of life changes.
Some fixes that I really wish they would add after playing other games. They've made some good ones in the 4.0 cycle, like the claim all button for expeditions, which is crazy that it took 3 years. Daily commissions change to where you can explore, and that'll actually like get you the encounter points, the long-term encounter points. That was a good change. Abilities resetting in the Abyss whenever you choose to restart a floor. They've been steadily making some good changes, but there's definitely some more that need to be done, in my opinion. First is dailies. We literally have a button that says claim rewards, but it's a f***ing tease. Just let us collect the rewards wherever we are. There's no reason to visit Catherine every day. Crafting menu.
No, I love hearing, add more applesauce. Add more applesauce. I love hearing that, actually. I don't mind seeing Cam. What up, baby? What up, Caddy? What up, baby?
Why can't we just have this as an option in the pause menu? We don't have to go to a table every time. You could just like write in some excuse to where it's like, we have a gadget and now we can do it wherever we are. Allow us to collect dailies in co-op. Allow the
Wait, I also forgot to mention allow us to convert materials like they do in Star Rail. That's valid.
Excuse towards like we have a gadget
Yeah.
and now we can do it wherever we are. Allow us to
This could be changed, just making co-op more fun. To be honest, feels like there
like
isn't much
daisy
to
co-op.
do.
Allow the traveler to swap elements in the menu. Make artifact grind.
I think overall Genshin Impact is probably going to have little to no co-op. I do think that Genshin Impact's co-op is probably going to be very. I just don't ever see them expanding on it. I would love to have a raid type activity where there's multiple people and there's really cool stuff. Does he do co-op in a completely different section of events? Nothing to do with skins? No, I think we can talk about co-op now. I think co-op is just whack. I think co-op is actually a waste of time. I don't understand how streamers, like, yeah, I did co-op today, I had fun. What'd you have fun with? Unless you're in VC with the people, I don't have fun. I think it's stupid. I'd rather just use all my characters. I've dropped videos where like I've done co-op challenges with my boys. Like that, I've had to make my own fun. Barbara only. We're only allowed to pick one character of each, and then we got to go speedrun bosses. Like that, I've had fun with. But co-op by itself, when it's just, hey, you guys want to go fight bosses together? Instead of me melting it in 3 seconds, it either gets melted in 1 second because someone has a C6, or it gets melted in 7 seconds. And it's like, I personally don't find the fun of that. I think it's annoying. I think it's silly. And I think there is literally nothing to do. I think, obviously, quality of life changes in general they have to add. But, like, for fuck's sakes, make co-op interesting. Please. Please. I think it's so dumb. It's so bad. So, yeah, I agree. I agree here.
Ending a lot easier.
agree.
Oh, and holy sh! I just remembered. Give us artifact loadouts. I nearly forgot about that. Allow
Oh, brother, for the love of Christ, please give me an artifact loadout. I mean, like, I would absolutely love an artifact loadout. Especially with the Imaginarium Theater. I don't even have to speak on that. You already know.
Constellations
You
to
already
be
know how I
turned
feel
off and
about
on.
that.
Allow us to buy old event weapons in the item shops, and that now reminds me about events. I have 2 things to say about events. 1, make the important ones permanent, and 2, quit recycling so many of them. Imagine a newer player does the Albedo story quest, and they just become their absolute favorite character. They save their primo gems, wait probably like a year for an Albedo.
I've never done that event. Everyone tells me it is the best story, one of the best stories in Genshin Impact history. Maybe one day I'll watch it. I don't know why. Maybe that's why everybody loves Albedo, and I absolutely hate him. I don't know why people like this homie. I've never done it. I came around too late. I think I came around a few patches after that. So I don't know. But that'd be cool.
Beto rerun, and they get him, but they can't use his best weapon. Nope, the cinnamon roll is gone forever. Get ready to use that R5 Harbinger of Dawn I know you got from all those 10 pools. And don't worry, if you're still sad about this, then you can go over to Mondstadt and buy the old balloons from previous events. Should have played this game 2 years ago, you idiot. And this isn't fully event related, but can we just talk about the updates? Am I the only one that feels that, like, some of these patches aren't even updates? There's 2 things that usually come with every update: a character / their story quest and events. But let's break this down. If you don't pull for the character, then nothing really changed. You can do their story quest, but that's what, 90 minutes of content for a patch that lasts like a month and a half. Then we have the events, which sometimes they can be fun, but they go away from the game after like a week and a half, or they will just reuse events like a combat domain in which you go into the door and get a buff that screen nukes the enemies. So if you've already done that event before, what changed? This is a live service game, but some of these updates don't even feel like an update. They feel like they took a step forward, then after a week and a half, they took a step back.
So I agree with that. I used to be under the impression that characters are content. They are not content. If it is 4.3, right, and we get Navia and 3 events, right? You're not rolling for Navia, and you do these 3, and it takes a total of maybe 1 hour and 20 minutes. I'm being very generous that 3 events are going to take you 1 hour and 20 minutes. There's nothing else to do. There's nothing else. Maybe, and I'm just making up patch numbers right now. I don't remember what the patch notes were like, or like when they added map expansions. But let's say this one they added Shanyun, right? We're just going to call it Shanyun. 3 events and map, right? Okay. Not rolling Shanyun. Events, 2 hours. Again, I'm being very generous here. I'm being very, very, very generous. And then the new map, done in maybe 2 hours, right? There's nothing else to do. So you had 4 hours of content. 4 hours of content for 3.4 when they added a map, right? And let's do 4.5, right? I'm making up something else. Now, I'm pretty sure there was nothing past that extra spot. You know what? Let's do it right now. Let's do 4.8. Let's do 4.8. You get Emily, so you get M, you get the event, and that is a new area. So let's just say I'm being super generous on time right now. Exploration, playing. I haven't done the event. I heard it's like 3 hours, right? Exploration, everything. Let's say you got 7 hours out of this, right? Which isn't too bad. That's actually not bad for a patch. 7 hours, and then after that, including exploration, you got Emily. Realistically, this is still 7 to maybe 8 hours of content. Because how long is it taking you to build Emily? If it's taking you, let's say, maybe an hour if you pre-farmed, or if you didn't pre-farmed, it might take you, let's say, 1 week, right? If you're playing every single day. And this isn't including if you got perfect artifacts, right? Obviously, I know there's different variables and different timelines where it's like, oh, well, I am still grinding for Emily, or like it's 2 years later and I'm still grinding Emblem. That's not new content. I'm talking in the bubble of new content. Let's say it took you 1 week, right, to get everything for her. So you got 1 week and 7 hours out of the patch, which isn't horrible. But this 1 week is not necessarily considered new content. It's like half and half. It's like, what new are you doing? You're just kind of getting the materials to get the character. The new content that you did was the event, and that's really it. And so, unless it's a 0.0, 0.1, 0.2 patch, it's very true. The updates are not updates. It just doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like a full-fledged out update. It feels like a pull for the character. Here's weird events to give you a few more primo gems that you can hold on to and log in and do your resin. And that maybe that's a problem with just gacha games as a whole. But I think it really is, actually. I'm not going to lie to you. This new ZZ update, this new Widowing Waves update doesn't really feel like a real update as well. It's just new characters. That's all it is. And one event. So, it's hard because these live service games they can't provide completely brand new content every single update. That's actually real, genuine updates. Again, characters are not new updates. That is a added part of the game where you're pretty much doing the same thing. I don't believe characters new content or new updates. I don't believe that. You could roast me and say, well, it's new. It's a new unit, new gameplay. So how is it not new? Because there's nothing fundamentally different being added to the game other than a unit, right? Especially in Genshin Impact. The game is so old that someone could 36-star the Abyss without touching any of the Fontaine characters. Or they'll be able to 36-star without touching any of the Natlan characters ever again. They could just ride the wave that they have now. So, yeah, I don't know, man. I 100% agree with that take. I think a lot of people back up the take of, oh, no, new characters and new content. I don't think so. I don't believe
the
that.
common complaint about Genshin is that there's nothing to do, which does have some truth to it, especially after like
Has a lot of truth to it,
AR-55, but
honestly.
I would disagree with that statement for the earlier portions of the game. Genshin is a very front-loaded game. There is so much for a new player to do. You've got a ton of story quests, hangout quests, world quests, whole nations to explore, events, Archon Quest, and even though I only said like 5 or 6 topics off the top of my head, there is a lot to explore with that content. The problem...
A lot of people are going to get turned off by most of those contents due to the fact you don't have a skip button. A lot of them are just kind of weird. They're not necessary. So I get that. And he's 100% right. It is a very front-loaded video game. And I really don't even want to call it... It is technically a live service game. But like once you get caught up in the Archon Quest, in my mind, that's it. There's really not much else for you to do. You could explore. If you want to sit there and do hangouts with characters and hear the same dialogue 5 times to get like a different ending... For 50 primogers, by all means, go do that. But to me, that's not something I'd want to do. I've done 0 hangouts. I don't want to do the hangouts. I have someone else do them for me because I don't care. I don't care. Well, this isn't a game for you. You know what? Maybe you're right. I don't know. I have higher hopes for the game. I have higher hopes for the game, and I think that there is just a lack of content, a lack of incentive to do a lot of the content in the game. Again, early players, they're getting to learn it, and so they're going to do a lot of these things in testing. They're going to realize some of them are going to love it and eat it up and do all of them. Some are going to be like, this is stupid. I don't want to do it. And especially for endgame players, there's nothing to do. I feel like with live service games, there should still be some sort of fan service for the endgame people, for the whales. But that's not a popular take, so whatever.
It's just that some of that content isn't very good. It can be draining, but worst of all, it can be boring. There's a good bit of story quests, world quests, and even some Archon quests that feel like a complete waste of time. Let's look at unfinished comedy for a second. I recently had to do this for a challenge run, and it was the first time I'd ever done it, so I'll summarize the first 30 to 60 minutes of this quest. You and these kids are trying to get out of the prison. Your goal is to collect coupons in a competition in which the winners get to leave. In order to get coupons, you must talk to probably 8 NPCs and do short little quests to get your coupons. But at the end of the first part, another group got more tickets than you guys. Oh well, but then it's revealed that one of your teammates bought other workers to help your group get more coupons, so you end up winning the event. So now I just have one question. What was the point in this? A literal waste of an hour, and all I got was 40 primo gems. 40.
The lack of rewards for your time is also another thing. I feel like if you're doing something for an hour, give me one wish. That might sound greedy, but I just don't. This is why I don't do story quests. That's why I don't do world quests. That's why I don't do anything. I'm not doing a 3-hour quest for 100 primo gems. I don't care about the lore that much. I don't. It is what it is. And even if you care about the lore that much, I think it's silly. I think it's like, why are you giving 100 primo gems? You're not even giving me a full pull. A full pull. The rewards in this game are atrocious. They're atrocious. Give me at least a pull. You know, come on, open world quest. It's 3 hours, 4 hours long. You might get 120 primos. Horrible.
Not even a third of a wish.
Skins.
They are literally free money. Make more of them, especially 5-star skins. Change the burst animations, or at least some color variations. And by that, I don't just mean turning the contrast up by 20%. Imagine if Delucardia had a skin that used blue fire, or Kachink had black lightning. That might cause some problems because of how reactions look and work, but surely there has to be some capacity to alter colors.
There should
or at the very least change animations. There is so much potential with skins, and I wish we got more than just putting the leeway characters in dresses and suits for every lantern right. And also, make them purchasable via primo gems. If someone's willing to give up 50 pulls just to get a skin for a character they like, then why can't they? I mean, we all know the actual answer to that.
Well, yeah, I mean, look, I'm all for that, but that's never gonna happen. I think they could make skins without making them purchase for primo gems. You know, I think they should 100% make skins. And they really are losing tons and tons of money by not having skins in the game. It's such a silly decision. It is such a silly decision. You know, I would buy a new Valette skin. I'd buy a Farina skin. I would buy a bunch of skins. I would buy skins for characters that I use. And I just don't know why they don't feel the need or why they don't throw them in the game. I think there's just such a massive disconnect. Whoever is in charge of Genshin Impact, I feel like they don't understand their own game and they don't understand their own audience. And it's like, why throttle? And you can make an ungodly amount of money. Why throttle that? Why do that? I just think they're very out of touch. I think the people who develop Genshin need to take a backseat and give it to someone else, please. Because the people who develop ZZZ, they're listening. Honkai Star Rail, they listen. I mean, Honkai Impact listens as well. Genshin Impact is just the most out of touch game. It's one of the most out of touch games I've ever witnessed, truthfully. And I come from Destiny 2. And I've played other types of games like that. And Destiny, I mean, you see what's going on with Bungie right now. That's a whole shit show for a different video on my other channel. But they just have potentially the worst PR team. They consistently make their own drama, their own issues. And then it's blatantly they do something bad, and then after that, the community is like, it's Tectone's fault. It's this person's fault. It's that person's fault. Well, you just aren't grateful enough. It's like, what? What? It's stupid. It is so stupid. It makes zero sense. I don't know, man. I don't know. This is coming from a Hoyoverse content creator. I don't even know. I don't know. I'll probably get in trouble for half the stuff. I don't really care, though. It's so silly. I love the game. I wish the game would be more. I wish whoever runs it takes a backseat. You got to stop. Little man, you got to go somewhere else. You got to do something else. Go work on a different content. Go work on a different game that y'all are developing. Please, for the love of God. This game has so much potential, and they just don't do anything with it.
So it would just be a nice thing to have.
Weapon banner? Oh, the weapon banner. The weapon banner is atrocious. You don't even have to. 2 fate points is stupid. Horrible. Horrendous. 1 fate point's enough. Withering Waves made it a guarantee, and I understand why Withering Waves did it, because honestly, the 4-stars in Withering Waves are pretty bad. Genshin Impact has a plethora of 4-star weapons that are very good and very solid and can work. Zyphos Moonlight, the Fav set, the Pipe, the catch. I mean, there's so many weapons, even free-to-play weapons that are extremely good. So Widowing Waves doesn't have that. So I don't think they can make it where it's like there's no fate point. But 1 fate point's enough. 2 fate points is the most greedy tactic of all time. And they should change it. They should absolutely change it. Well, they know because they make mad money off of it. But it's clear they don't care about the consumer the same way they do in other video games. They don't appreciate or value the consumer the way that Honkai Star Rail does, and which is kind of crazy because realistically, Genshin Impact has printed them billions of dollars, right? Billions of dollars to enable them to make all these other projects. So you would think they would appreciate the consumer more, but they don't. They just straight up don't.
We all know it's a scam. Just separate the weapon banners like Star Rail. That's literally all you have to do. I know why it's not separated.
Money.
But whales are going to spin regardless. There's no reason for a free-to-play player to go on weapon banner at the moment unless they've been saving for like half a year and they can maybe get both the character and the weapon, or they already have the character and they just want the weapon. If they're feeling nice, they could guarantee the weapon banner, but we all know that's not going to happen. This one's really brief because this banner's a lost cause.
Yeah.
I think Genshin is ready for a 3rd banner. This is actually the one change I could see actually happening maybe early in the Natland cycle. It could be another limited character banner, a birthday banner, or a Chronicle Wishes. Either way, I just think we need another consistent banner. And also, standard banner really needs an update. Please just let us pick whatever we want for our 5-star. As it stands, there is no real reason for someone with a normal account to pull on standard banner. None. Literally none whatsoever. The game gives you 20 standard banner pulls at the beginning of the game. You get them for leveling characters. And other than that, it's just the monthly reset. That is it. You get pink wishes from events, the Archon Quest. There is no reason to use your Primo Gems on standard banner. And if someone wants a character or weapon from that banner, then let them pick it. I'm AR60, but I've never had the Skyward Harp. I don't have Dia. I don't have the Wolf's Gravestone, and more. Just let us pick and have a reason to pull on this banner, aside from us doing the monthly reset and getting a 5-star on the banner like once a year. And since we're talking about wishes, let's just talk briefly about the rewards. Does anyone else think it's funny how the Nouvelle, quote, bug fix revert gave us the same rewards as our yearly anniversary? I'm not complaining. I'll take a 10 pull any day of the week. I just wish that the game in general was this generous, especially since their sibling gives out a 10 pull for like every patch.
I don't know about a 4th banner. I don't know. I mean, like, I could see it. I think Chronicled Wish had some ups and downs. I think Chronicled Wish was not a bad idea by any stretch of the imagination, but I think they handled it pretty poorly. I think they had definitely handled that pretty poorly, and I think that it's not a bad idea, but I 100% agree on revamping the standard banner. The standard banner is 100% useless. I think what they did with the Chronicle Wish, where you can focus a character or a weapon, just do that for the standard. They clearly have the technology. They have the code for it. Transfer that over to standard banner. If you want to add the Chronicle Wish as well, add that as well. But I also don't know when the next Chronicle Wish banner is going to be. And realistically, I think the Chronicle Wish banner, if you're going to drop it based on a region, for example, let's say the next Chronicle Wish banner says Hu Tao, Yelan, Ayato, and I don't know, Ito. Has 5 characters and has their 5 weapons. Make that banner last 3 months. Like, to put a 4th banner for 1 month, which is a Chronicled Wish banner, and then get rid of it 28 days later and not come back. I don't know how many months it's been, 3-4 months. They've wasted pity. They've wasted their resources, especially they haven't gotten anything, and now they're just screwed. At least if you let it rock for 3 months for a specific region, that makes sense. And maybe it won't be permanent. Again, maybe if they want to do it for 3-4 months, and then, okay, that's that. Maybe they do that in the second half, like, okay, after the Archon stuff, after for a 5.3 or 5 whatever your halfway point is, add that Chronicle Wish banner there and let it rock for the whole thing. You're going to print money. I mean, you are going to print money with how many people got C6 Eula. Fucking trash. Who the fuck uses physical damage? But they got Eula, right? It's like, I don't know, man. All of these, 95.5% of these are 100% valid points that 100% agree with. They will it change it? Probably never, but still.
Wow, we only get it annually? Oh gosh, this game is so funny. This is mainly here because I just want more. I don't really care about the meta reactions or any of that stuff. I really don't. I just want them to add more layers to the gameplay and have all the elements work with each other. Can we get more elemental reactions so we don't have to wait 2 years for the off chance that we might get elements in the future? Can we just like have more fun with team resonances? Like, what if you have 4 Anmo characters and you have like a tornado that shows up every time you do an elemental skill? What if you have like 4 crowd characters and you hit an enemy with all of your characters on your team? It freezes them. That way you can actually get freeze off without having a Hydro character on the team. I'm just listing stuff off the top of my head, but I mean, like, surely there's more fun to be had with the game mechanics. Like I mentioned earlier, if you're not going to make the enemies more interesting, then make our gameplay more interesting. Give Geo some cool shit. Give Animo's special reactions for like Geo and Dendro. There's so much that can be done with elements, and I don't want to have to wait for the chance that maybe Imaginary and Quantum could eventually come into this game in order for there to be more for us to experiment with.
I think that's 100% accurate. I think it will never happen because of the fact that that will make it too complicated and too hard for people to play. And that's exactly the response that we're going to get. Well, how will this affect new players? How will this affect people? Reading is very hard already, right? So like the people's response is like, well, that's too complicated. I think those are good. I think those are good suggestions. Or even if you don't want to go that far to change the core of the game, make Geo work with elements, bro. I mean, like, if you made Geo works with elements, it probably would be the best element in the game. It really would. I think it would. You made Geo synergize with Hydro, Pyro, Electro. Probably won't do with Dendro, but you make it synergize with those, it'll be great. Navia's an amazing attack scaling DPS. Zhongli's there. Ito is fun. I mean, it's so dumb. Granted, Farina, since Farina is just so good, you could use Farina anywhere and put Farina in Geo teams. But that's just because we're brute forcing it because Farina's so broken and she could work anywhere. That's not them actually synergizing. Crystallize is not enough. Crystallize is not it. That's whack. That's whack as hell, honestly.
There are times to where it's like, we really shouldn't even have the option.
Use this dialogue?
Just
Oh, for
let
sure.
Paimon say everything because either
No
our
doubt.
options don't matter or they just get flat out ignored. And since I mentioned Paimon, let me just give my thoughts on her. And it's not going to be some stupid comment like, I think Paimon's voice is annoying, because I don't. That's not my problem with Paimon.
Her writing?
I
Yeah,
understand
pretty
Paimon's
abysmal.
purpose in the game. I do not have a problem with her yapping because it makes sense to have her there for players having a hard time understanding the material. But there's two solutions to this. Have a skip cutscene button, or at the very
Yep.
least, make our dialogue options matter. The worst example of this is at the end of the second days of quest, and I'll let this clip from Zach speak for itself.
By the way, what they said just now is all pretty confusing. Did you understand it at all?
Yeah, I pretty much got it.
Oh, well then, let's go over it again.
No, please don't. I chose the first option so that you would not make me go over it again.
You're like, I got it.
That's true.
Oh, okay. They just, this fine.
First off, that
Oh,
Abyss
never mind.
I am okay with Paimon being in the game. Just make it so that she doesn't force herself onto everything if we don't want her to. I get that this is a game made for people of all ages, and when you do that, you have to cater towards children. But don't treat everyone like they're a child. A child can read a prompt that says, yes, I understand what was said, and no, can you repeat it?
I'm always important.
I have a joke on my channel. If there's no audio, it doesn't matter. But I do think there is some truth to that statement. There are important quests that do not have dialogue, such as the Aranara quest, but I can't be the only one who feels that whenever Hoyoverse makes a quest that isn't voiced, it kind of signals to me that this quest is not going to be nearly as important as the
for
other
sure,
ones. When I hear
without a
Paimon or another character speak, whether or not I care about what they say does not matter. I am at least getting a signal that this is something important to the main story. When they don't speak anything and I'm having to read a visual novel, I get the sign that this quest will never be mentioned again in anything meaningful. I know that the R&R quest
Yeah, pretty
has
much.
important lore to it, but I really don't want to have to
I
read
doubt
through
it. I don't-
11 hours of
no, I don't
dialogue to
care.
enjoy it.
Character designs? Okay,
This is a
interesting.
topic of controversy that has been brought back up. It was around for Sumeru, and with the Natlan character lineup, it's been brought back. And here are my
Okay.
personal thoughts on the situation. Am I surprised? Not at all. Am I disappointed? Yes. Do I think it's justified to be upset about this? Yes.
Yeah.
If a game takes influence from your culture, then I think they should not be afraid to make
100%.
important characters, not just NPCs,
100%
have
no
different
doubt.
skin tones that represent people from that
Yep.
culture. Does this mean all that you have to do is just load into Photoshop, eyedrop tool brown, paint bucket, and then boom, you're done? No, because there's a large variety of skin colors present in
Yep.
Latin American, African, and
Yep.
Polynesian cultures. There are plenty of
Yep.
designs from the Natlan lineup that do look much better with a darker skin color, especially
Yep.
for some characters where their designs look like they were actively made for a darker skin color. And this
Yep.
is even more prevalent because one of the characters that's coming out has glowing lights, but you can barely notice it because their skin is so pale. Like I said at the beginning, this is not the first time they've done this. This issue was present in Sumeru, but the hopes back
Yeah, this is pretty bad. I mean, unfortunately, like whitewashing is a real thing, and they do it pretty often. I mean, they do it all the time. You can tell, like again, Sumeru, Nalan. Google the comments from the CN community. I mean, like I'm obviously like 100 comments or 50 comments or 1,000 upvotes doesn't represent all of the CN community, but it's very well known on the CN side how they feel. You know, Dia is the worst selling character in the game. It's not only because she's bad. You know, I mean, the comments about Dia is pretty bad. You know, people that don't like her because she's dark skinned, they think dark skin is ugly. We don't want this wokeness in our game. It's so silly. It's like, brother, if you were stealing from a culture, at least have enough respect or enough decency to match the skin tone, right? So I'm already like, sure. Again, I don't look at leaks. I don't know anything. But I will be very surprised if there is not some weird Paimon dialogue about something super inappropriate in the game and it's supposed to come off cutesy because she's a kid. And then, you know, the response of, oh, this is a work of fiction. This isn't real. Please take it with a grain of salt is such an L response. That is the most brain dead response ever and no accountability. I think Genshin Impact lacks accountability in every front possible. So, yeah, pretty big O. Pretty big O. I was like, character designs. I was like, what are they talking about? But then it took me a minute. I'm a little slow. But yeah, I agree.
Back then were that at least Natlan will have darker skin colors, but that isn't the case, which is why the outrage has come back. These characters are named after figures from real-life cultures, so whenever someone looks up the names of Kanich, Ororun, Shilonen, this is what they will see.
As an example, along with others. Oh, wait, hold on.
This is what they will see.
Alhaitham's as an example contains the father of optics, which may Alhaitham's gameplay involve mirrors. Oh, okay. That's interesting.
I love that this game uses other cultures for inspirations of their nations. It is one of my favorite aspects of Genshin, but seeing the lack of diverse skin colors is very depressing to look at. And this goes for all nations, not just Sumeru and Atlan. It gets harder to immerse yourself into this world full of different landscapes and nations when the majority of the cast share the same color. They do great jobs with the actual clothing designs of some characters, but other times they don't. Even though I don't come from African, Latin American, or Polynesian cultures, I still like to learn about them, and I like to see them represented in media. I love mythology, and I love learning about these parts of different cultures. Smite is one of my favorite games ever made, and whenever I saw the design of Olorin on Twitter and people were comparing the Genshin and Smite ones, it kind of threw me for a loop, but that's a little off topic for right now. By the way, don't play Smite. But like seeing the all-powerful supreme being of Yoruba who created the heavens and all living things, a being who has no real physical form and is everywhere at all points, look like the MC of a rip-off solo leveling manhwa, just like what? I know the character isn't actually supposed to be Olorin in the Genshin universe, or at least I really hope that is not the case. Next, I just hope that Shibalanke doesn't look like an isekai protagonist with a tattoo of a jaguar head on his arm. I am fully aware that this game is fictional, but if you're going to take aspects from real-life cultures, then you should represent all the different types of people from said culture. I've long accepted that they don't care about global opinions, so I expect absolutely nothing to happen, but I still just wanted to get all of this off my chest.
Conclusion, game's ass, unsolved, waves.
I just want to say that I still love the game. You might be thinking that someone like me who keeps playing through the game on multiple accounts is burnt out, and the answer to that is both yes and no. I'm not burnt out on the challenge runs because believe it or not, I still actually do enjoy doing them. Well, I enjoy doing them up until a certain point, and that point's kind of like Sumeru because that's when I'm more watching a game than I am actually playing it. But I'm honestly more burnt out on my main account. I have plenty to do, but I just don't want to do it because I know that most of these quests will just be a yap fest about characters that I don't care about. When I see changes being announced for the game, it doesn't make me excited. It just makes me think, why did it take so long? Are you doing this because you're actually listening to us, or does Wuthering Waves frighten you that much? The 200 Resin announcement is honestly what made me want to make this rant, because this is a change that everyone's been asking for, including me, but I felt nothing when it happened, and at that point, I realized that there was other issues I had with the game that I needed to address. Why do we not have a better overcapping resin system? Why is our recharge still 8 minutes? Why do we have to go to Catherine every day for dailies? Why can't we just craft in the menu? Why can't we swap elements with Traveler in the menu? And, like, there's so much more I could go on about. You may have noticed that a lot of my complaints revolve around, like, the new player experience, and that's because I go through that a lot, but the difference is I know what to do and play around it, but a newer player wouldn't. I want the game to grow, but I can completely understand why a newer player would easily drop the game. This game has just so much potential, and like, notice how I said has there and not had, because I do believe that there is still hope for this game, however small that light may be.
I don't know, man. I don't know. I think I've honestly kind of given up on wanting a lot of the really good changes to happen. I just don't think they will, and I think that's why it's healthy to involve other games into your gacha rotation, man. I think it's very healthy, and it helps you realize, like, you know what, Genshin Impact is not the only gacha game on the planet, and it's not the only good game on the planet. You know, I mean, realistically, at the end of the day, it's a Breath of the Wild copy, right, with gacha elements. Go play Breath of the Wild. That game has more challenging content than Genshin Impact does, and it has more content. Breath of the Wild has 200 plus hours of content. Map is bigger. The sequel has 400 hours plus content and stuff like that. It's like, I love this game, and I will still cover it. I'll still play it. I'll still do account recoveries, account runs, account reviews for my viewers and whatnot. And And I would love to get in the creator server to test things, but like also at the same time, it's just like it's kind of disheartening. It's like, dude, you don't listen. They just straight up don't like they just don't listen. It falls on deaf ears. And when we had an opportunity to see potential real change in the community, back with the rewards, it got overshadowed by just stupid drama from that same photo. Like, it got overshadowed by that dude. And it's like, well, there goes that, right? And they're not changing this stuff. I'd be very, very surprised if they would change at least one main character skin color. So yeah, let's see. Let's look at the conclusion. I don't know, man. I have no faith. I have no faith. You know, I'm a Water Wing Wave show.
Maybe that light is actually a train of disappointment that's coming to run me over. This game has steadily been making more quality of life changes, which is good. That's mainly what I want more of. But there's still plenty more work to be done. I want this game to grow and attract newer players, but the lack of quality of life changes and the lack of endgame makes it hard to recommend newer players. And
I also think that the game absolutely like functions. I feel like people defend it like it's an indie studio. Like, oh, you got to give them some time. They have to figure out how to do this. They have to figure it out. They're a top 250 earning company of all time worldwide. This is not some indie studio that's like in 2019 that made Honkai Impact 3. It's a multi-billion-dollar business. They make at least $100 million a month, bare minimum. They just made $100 million off of ZZZ in 1 month. I mean, like, I don't know why people defend it so much and make it seem like that it's impossible for them to make these changes. As a consumer, this is going to sound selfish, but this is the God's honest truth. As a consumer, it is not my problem to figure out how the developers change something. I'm not saying the developers should have inhumane work hours and have, you know, horrible lives and give up their third arm or their children to make a video game. That's not what I'm saying. But as a consumer, why do I care about a developer's time period 4 years after and the game is still ass? How do you want loyalty from a consumer if you don't listen? It's not my job to, well, how can you figure out how to code the Abyss to make a new floor or make an endless game mode? I'm not a coder, but I'm a consumer, and that shit is just not the person. And so when people defend it like it's a mom and pop shop, or if like it's a GoFundMe video game, it's like, it's so silly. It is so silly. You look goofy, brother. You look goofy, you know?
And older players to come back. I remember when I was streaming and I was asked, do I like HSR or Genshin more? And I said I enjoy playing Genshin more, but if I had to recommend anyone a gacha game, it would be HSR, because it is just a much more fair experience for the player. And when you play other games, you begin to see and question Genshin's issues even more in the lack of attention they receive. Additionally, I would also like to add that for the foreseeable future, I will be going free-to-play for the Hoyoverse games, not just Genshin. I've already made my accounts for Standard Banner 5 stars and the Archons for those challenge videos. I made those accounts in December/January, so they've already got my money, but I don't want to spend more. For the Archon series, I know that I will more than likely have to spend for the Pyro Archon and the Cryo Archon, so ultimately I'll probably have to drop some cash to make those challenges and the videos for you guys. Maybe I'm lucky and I can get them without spending, but realistically it probably won't happen. If I do have to spend money on those accounts, then I will donate double the amount of that money to charity. I know that it still doesn't undo the fact that Hoyoverse has my money, but I would still like to at least give out money for a company that I know will make a good change in the real world, rather than some changes I would want in a fictional one. My decision to go free to play stems from like all the issues that I've mentioned in the video and more.
I know it seems hypocritical to ask skins and say that I'm going free to play. I've never bought skins. I do not intend, but I would like to still see them express their creativity. But no, exactly. I don't think it's hypocritical. I think if you get hate for that, I think people are just being silly and saying anything to be hateful. There's nothing wrong with asking for skins even if you don't buy them. You know, at the end of the day, it's a business.
I do not want to directly give Hoyoverse any of my money from my wallet until they start treating players with more respect and make more changes that we, as a community, have been asking for nearly 4 years. Not just the changes that I've been mentioning in this video. It pisses me off because we all want the game to do better, and we all know that they have the potential to do better, because this is the same company that listens to the complaints made towards their other games, like Star Rail and ZZZ. At this point, I just want to ask them, like, why do you hate Genshin so much? It's like, I mean, I get it, but you're the one who made the game.
Yeah,
I don't even know anymore, man. Like I said earlier, I hope this video gets dated, and they, like, update everything and just start listening to us. But at the moment, I don't really have any expectations for the Natlan cycle. And truthfully, I haven't had much expectations for this game for the past couple of years. Hopefully things change, but I don't really see that happening, which is probably the most depressing part about all of this. But yeah, that's the end of the video. If you guys have any thoughts on the game that you would like to share, positive or negative, just please leave them down in the comments and let's all just have a discussion and just vent. Let's just get it all out. I know that there are probably tons of issues that I missed. So I'm curious as to what you all think. Yeah, that's it for Chris at the moment. Thank you all for listening to me yap for like over half an hour, I think. But take care.
Yeah, I'm sure you're gonna get tons of hate as well for the takes that I have in here. I don't know. Maybe I'll get in trouble. Maybe I don't know. I don't really care. At the end of the day, I do think they need to start respecting the players more. You can't expect people to play the game and spend money when you obviously continuously make horrendous decisions, slap the players in the face, steal from cultures, don't give anything back to those cultures, don't have any representation, and just make genuinely horrendous, horrible marketing moves. I love the game. It's ass though. It's ass. I played Elden Ring for the first time the other day. I made a video about it on my channel. Go check it out. It's called Let's Talk. I made a video about it. Ever since I started playing gacha games and doing this particular channel, I've only played gacha games. I can count on one hand how many times I play Valorant, and I played a few League of Legends games off stream. Maybe I might have played 1 or 2 games on stream, but I consistently just played gacha games for 2 years. And it made me realize, like, I always thought these are the only games, and it's not the case. There's so many other games out there that are just genuinely better. And gacha games in the grand scheme of things are A, not the end-all be-all. B, they're made to not be main games, and you're meant to cycle through them. But with that being said, you could still treat the games with respect and the players with respect. And unfortunately, that is just not the case here. And so I get why people say Hoyoverse thinks that they hate the community. I don't think Hoyoverse does. I think Genshin Impact, for whatever reason, just does not care. I don't know if they hate their player. Fuck it. They hate their players. Fuck it. Is there anything else to prove it otherwise? If you can find something that shows me otherwise, hey, I'll go with you. It was a long video, man. It was a good conversation. Shout out to Mistah Feet. I love you. I'll see you in the next one. Go my friends merch. Mwah. I love you. Bye.